We Filipinos still have a long way to go when it comes to investing for the future. We seem to prioritize instant gratification, but I think how to invest properly is something that we all need to be familiar with.
It's simple, really. You work today, you invest, then leave better tomorrow.
Besides, investing shouldn't be scary, you know. It doesn't have to be overwhelming. I mean, I started when I was a teen. I hope that I inspire my kids that when they're old enough, they'll tell me that they're excited to do the same.
What's important is to find a good reason to invest. It becomes so much easier when you visualize your goal.
People think I travel so much and I have a YOLO or you only live once attitude. But the truth is, I travel because that's my business and I make sure I invest in it, spend time for it to give people the best experiences they deserve.
When people find out that they invest for what I'm passionate about, they always say, "What?" But I always just tell them that I can afford to fund my passions because of my investments.
The thing is, some people are just too shy to ask for financial advice. Like asking for help is seen as a sign of weakness, when in fact, it's through asking that we learn the best way of doing things, even in investing. With ATRAM, you can engage and be confident that you have a partner in achieving your financial goals.
People usually think investing means buying a house or retiring. Sure, it can, but saving for smaller goals is another way to do it.
People think investing is expensive. Nowadays, even with a small amount of money, you can already begin your investment with ATRAM. It's easy to make it a monthly or even a weekly routine. ATRAM makes investing simple, even for busy moms like me.
And even if you're always on the go, like me, you can keep an eye on your investments online. Plus, I'm confident that ATRAM, my trusted partner, will take care of my portfolio and make sure it gets invested in the right place.
Never settle for average. Why? Because life is what we make it. And a strong investment partner can help us live the life we want.
ATRAM is dedicated to delivering an investment experience that helps people get more out of life. In fact, it was built with that single focus, to help clients attain their investment objectives. We see Filipinos invest in their dreams and aspirations. With ATRAM, building the future is a task we can surely take on.
With ATRAM,
You
Can take on tomorrow.
Hello and good morning, everyone. Thank you for joining this week's episode of ATRAM's webinar series. Today we'll be having an educational webinar tackling health and wellness matters, how financial fitness is like physical fitness. I am Paolo Edelior, Business Development Manager at ATRAM. I'd like to let you know that this webinar will be recorded and that copies will be disseminated within the day as well as posted on all our social media pages. Make sure to stay until the end as we will be wrapping up with a quick feedback survey. Being financially fit is similar to working out and getting into the best physical shape possible. We'll be dialing in on how to get financially fit as well as give tips on being physically fit. Our speaker this morning is ATRAM's Head of Multi-Asset Strategies. She has a bachelor's and master's degree in physics from UP Diliman and is also a CFA charter holder. I know you might be wondering what these have to do with physical fitness. Well, she also happens to be a two-time Southeast Asian Games Silver Medalist for triathlon, as well as a yoga and gym enthusiast. Ladies and gentlemen, I'd like to welcome Alessandra Araullo-Gonzalez. Hi, Sandra. Welcome to the show.
Good morning. Good morning, everyone. Hi, Paulo. Thanks for having me today. I'm excited.
I am too. Before we begin, I guess part of why we decided to choose this topic, and specifically you, is because we're friends on Facebook. And I noticed that you have posted several videos, and I'd like to give our audience a glimpse of some of your workout videos, as well as some of your photos competing. So let me pull up a few here. And if you could take us through the photos and what the stories behind this are.
Oh, okay. So these are taken a long time ago, maybe 10, 15 years ago. In my past life, before I became a multi-asset portfolio manager for ATRAM, I was a competitive athlete. I was a member of the national team. and I actually was the first representative for triathlon in the SEA Games back in 2005. That one, that photo where I have the flag around me, that was the first one. And then since then, I started working my career a little bit late, around 2007. And I joined the ATRAM in 2010. So I've been with ATRAM for 10 years now. I didn't stop with sport. I continued to compete as an age grouper. So that's the photos on the right. And I just did it for fun and for fitness. It's just hard to stop doing something that you're so used to doing, I guess. But since then, life happened. I got older. I had kids also. So, I had to dial it down because time is a limited commodity, and, priorities. I had to change priorities as I grew older and wiser. So, but that's the context behind those photos that you just took from my Facebook page. I can see.
I see. Thank you very much for sharing that. Let me move on to showing a bit of videos just to, give our audience a glimpse. Thank you. And to start,
Yeah.
I'm just curious. How did you go from national athlete to portfolio manager? I know you also have two kids, and how do you balance everything out?
Actually, those videos were all taken out of human boredom because, we have a lot of things to do, right? But it was since we went into quarantine, and I was just kind of playing around and keeping myself entertained, keeping myself sane. Before the lockdown, I had this routine of, going to the office in the morning. I will work out, and then since the lockdown happened, it's been difficult for everyone, including myself. But I kind of stuck to principles when it came to my fitness or exercise regimen, and it helped anchor the rest of my day, including professionally and even as a mom. I have two small kids who've been cooped up in a small apartment for 5 months now. So you can imagine, everybody's going through, very unprecedented times now. And I've used fitness and my enthusiasm for fitness as a way to cope, basically. And I was actually quite pleased when I heard that Atram wanted to do this kind of a topic because it's very close to my heart. And I'm a portfolio manager, so professionally I do manage money. But there's also a personal finance aspect to it. We approach it differently from a professional money manager standpoint versus just looking after your personal finances. And today, that's what I'd like to focus on. Just maybe use the physical fitness, which most people are familiar with. It's very intuitive, and connect it with financial fitness. So, what do the two things have in common? On the surface, it's easier to see how they're very different. In fact, I think even a lot of our colleagues now, Pao, are listening in because they're kind of curious how I'm gonna connect the two things. No, the reality is that physical fitness and personal fitness are one of the two most important areas of our lives. So it's no coincidence that there are striking similarities between the two once you start digging in. So let me just dive into it. When you talk about personal finance, it's what are the key considerations when we're talking about it? I mean, intuitively, obviously, there's income, how much you're making, how much you're spending, what you're setting aside. And I'd like to introduce, or, I mean, I'm sure a lot of our audience are already familiar with the concept of investing, but maybe for somebody who's just starting to look at their personal finance situation, it's the first three things that are immediate, and then investing becomes something like for later. If you were able to see the video, the ATRAM video, it talks a lot about how important it is to do you know today. Should have done it tomorrow, but today is it's better late than never. It's something that we really push for. It's almost an advocacy for ATRAM. We want to see every Filipino investing in their future and aspirations. It sounds very motherhood, but it sounds like a motherhood statement. But really, that's why I want to tie it to physical fitness. When I talk about physical fitness, on the next slide, what I'm really talking about is both sides of the equation. So if you can go to the next slide. What I'm talking about when I mean fitness or body fitness is really physical activity or moving and nutrition. Go back, please. Right. Um, so when I talk about fitness, so it's those two areas. And again, we're still kind of okay. So what does the two have? What are the similarities between the two things apart from they're important to all of us? Well, it so happens that it's can you go to the next slide, please? Okay, fitness, like finance, is behavioral. I want you to just think about that. It's behavioral and it's personal. So everybody's situation is different. Everybody's health situation is different. Everybody's personal finance situation is different. We have different goals, objectives, constraints, limitations. So I'm already kind of digging a little deeper into the topic, no? The first thing that finance or fitness and personal finance have in common is that there needs to be a goal, and there needs to be an honest assessment of what the limitations are. And it's unique to a person's situation. It's personal. I can talk about, for example, if you're a much younger person, then it's easy to just do anything physical. I would liken that to getting into investing and being guided into you know thinking that my risk appetite is high. I can handle risk. Medyo vague, but that's typically the connection between age, risk profile. Same with fitness. If you're much younger, you can just get advice and be told that you just run, you're going to be fine, just run. But as you get a little more mature, there becomes a lot more things to consider. In fitness, for example, when I used to be very active in triathlon, I did swimming, biking, running. I mean, every day, twice a day. Sometimes I do one sport in the morning and then another in the afternoon for training. It's very intensive. It really, it's very stressful for the body. I cannot do that anymore today. I mean, but I'm still fit. I'm still reasonably fit because my objectives are different. When I was competing, my objective was to win. When I was preparing for the SEA Games, my objective was to win the gold medal. I didn't. I got the second best, but I mean, it's good enough, right? But I had the goal, and it's better to kind of have reach for the stars and land on the roof, so to speak. Now, as a professional, I mean, as a, professional portfolio manager, my priorities are different. I'm a mom. What's my fitness goal? Honestly, I just want to be able to keep up with my kids. You know, at night, I work from home, so I tend to just lock myself and in the evenings when work is done, they'd come to me and they'd want some quality time. They'd ask me to carry the both of them. Dalawa sila. One is 6 and one is 3 at the same time. So I'm grateful when I am able to, and it is because I put in the work. So my goal is to be fit enough as I age, so that I get to enjoy things and not be limited by just the natural process of aging, something like that. So same with investing. Uh, you might have this objective of retirement. So that one, maaga pa lang, you kind of have to be thinking about it already. Or you just want to fund a trip, for example. In 10 years time, you want to treat yourself to like a big trip or something. Then it's a goal. It's measurable, and it's something that it can motivate. You know, when you have a goal, it's you keep that in mind, and there's something there's something to aspire for. There's a direction that you want to get to. So that's even that's even still motherhood. I want to go in a bit more detail on what the similarities are. So on the next slide, the first thing I want to point out is that with physical fitness and with financial fitness, simplicity is key. I mean, it can be overwhelming. For example, to begin with, when you're talking about physical fitness, you're talking about movement, activity, and diet. If you just talk about nutrition, there's already so many information, so many ways to do it. There's so many different diets, and it keeps on changing. Like back in the 90s, fat was the enemy. Can't even eat eggs because cholesterol is high, blah, blah, blah. Now it's sugar. So there's a lot of information, and it's good to know, but especially when you're starting with it, it's good to stick to a few basic principles. And for the fitness side, it's really eat real food and not too much. That's very basic. What's real food? Real food, things that don't come in bags or packages. You know, real vegetables, fruits. I mean, that's not complicated at all. What else? Don't binge eat. Don't eat chips. Very basic, right? On the fitness side, similarly, keeping it simple and depending on your starting point. So that's an important consideration. But you know, any kind of movement, moving throughout the day, just walking, and especially doing something that you enjoy is already a starting point. It's a good starting point, because the less complex it is to start, the more you will be motivated to keep on, just get used to being more consistent. That's the key with anything actually, if you think about it. So on similarly with personal finance, basic, right? Don't spend more than you make. Okay? And then maybe taking it a little bit another level or another notch higher. When we're talking now about investments or investing in your future, the first tip I would give is to invest in something that you understand. Invest the difference between what you make as income and what you spend into something that you understand. So whether it's there, and this is where understandably it kind of gets a little bit more complex. But it's part of part of the journey. It's part of what's fun about it. You kind of get to know yourself. You get to know, because it's behavioral, diba? And it's also the challenge. Later on, I have one more tip about that. But uh, as you start with simple principles, you get to build up on that, and there's again, it's motivating to see, little results as you go along. The only I would say uh, um, the kalaban of being successful at a physical fitness journey or personal finance journey is impatience. Yeah. So on the next slide, the other very similar thing between uh, physical fitness and financial health is really, once you're on a program, you kind of determined what your starting point is. You know what your limitations are. If you're a little bit more sophisticated, maybe you already know about bonds and equities, and you're thinking about investing in more outside of the Philippines, for example. It's all going to have to be tracked. You have to keep track of what you're doing. You have to keep track of your your, on the health side, you have to keep track of your of the activities that you do, of the food that you eat, of the amount of sleep that you get, of your stress levels, of your, just your mood. These all kind of, again, that's a little getting a little bit more complex, but to start, you basic things. For example, nutrition is a key component of physical fitness. You want to lose weight as a goal, for example. Calories in need to be less than calories out. It's the same with building your wealth. You have to you have to calories, money in needs to be more than what you spend, and the difference you put in investment. So but that, to put a little bit more structure into it, it needs to be measurable, and you can track things. So I really like the saying that you can't manage what you can't measure. And it's difficult to stick to a plan when you don't know where you're at. You're on this journey. You don't have, I mean, when you're driving, diba? You're driving from point A to point B. You kind of want to know, and even small kids kind of want to know, are we there yet? Are we there yet? So um, during that journey, you kind of put maybe markers, let cut it up into bite-sized pieces, and that's really where on the next slide, that's where small wins lead to big results. So okay, I promise this is the only chart that I inserted in this presentation, but it's basically illustrating the power of compounding. And I'm sure you've heard of it. I mean, it's one of those keywords that gets thrown around a lot, and I'm not sure if it's appreciated enough, but it is really a key principle in investing, and not just investing in anything, even in physical pursuits or physical fitness pursuits, and that is um, uh, these small increments compound, or you earn on top of what you gained from the previous iteration, and that's how it's depicted by the curved line on that chart. Whereas compared to linear growth, it doesn't consider compounding. So over time, give it enough time on the x-axis, there's a huge difference between letting things compound, or I would say sticking to something, especially with on the fitness side. Exercise and nutrition habits that we form when we're young have, make a huge difference over the years. And I put here Tom Cruise just because, I remember watching Mission Impossible, the last one. he's in his 50s, almost 60, but he still did all of his stunts. I mean, you might not like him as a person, but as an actor and as a an action star, he knows his stuff, and um he's managed to really age well in that regard because he started really early. And it's just an example. I could say the same for myself. That's why it's not not as hard for me to maintain my fitness even while we're in this quarantine situation, because I kind of already have a good handle on what I should be doing to keep up my fitness, how to tweak things, and I'm getting to enjoy some of that, the compounding of the benefits that I've managed to the benefits that I've gained from being physically active since I was a kid, really. I started swimming when I was like 6 years old. Competitively, I started swimming competitively when I was 6 with the help of my parents. But when I was in college, I was doing it a little bit more by myself, and started small, started with simple things. I just wanted to be able to finish a race, for example, and then it became I wanted to finish it fast. I wanted to qualify for the national team, and now it's just there. I own it. It doesn't go to waste. So it's the same with investing. If you've already determined what your goal is, you stick to it, and you see the small wins as something that will keep you on track to staying with the path. On the next slide, the thing I want to point out is that focus on what you can control, and you can only control one thing. You can only control yourself. It's a little philosophical, but for example, with fitness, no, you might hit some things that you can't control. For example, you thought na you wanted to run tomorrow. You want to run because you're on this running program. You wanna finish a marathon, and you need to be able to run, I don't know, 20 kilometers for your long run that week. And biglang MECQ, yung makalabas, or biglang may bagyo. Can't control that. So what can you control? Well, I may not be able to build on that running endurance, but I can maintain a level of cardiovascular endurance, your ability to do a physical activity for a longer period of time by doing a different form of exercise. So again, I'm very matagal ko na itong ginagawa eh. So it's very intuitive for me. But again, as long as you start small and you build on it and you get these little wins, and then you get to a point where if I get injured, for example, if I hurt myself or I'm not feeling well, I'm feeling a little under the weather, I can't help it. And there's no use kind of being annoyed or moping around. I mean, sure, you can acknowledge it, but at the end of it, what are you going to do about it? It's the same with personal finance, especially when you're already investing. Markets are very unpredictable. You can have a view, you can have a strategy, you can study it to death, but what will happen tomorrow is anybody's guess. So there is a way to manage what you can control, and what you can control is get the information that you have today and make a decision about it and follow that strategy. And if it doesn't I'm talking a little bit more from a portfolio manager standpoint, but from a personal finance standpoint, you can control the markets, and it's useless to try to time markets, really. So there are several techniques that one can employ. For example, a time averaging. You saw in the video earlier, you just have this discipline of putting in a little bit, a little bit, a little bit, that is something I can control. That's something you can control. Or if you're a little, you spent a little too much something, retail therapy, Lazada, okay, kind of take a step back and reassess whether it's aligned with the goals that I've set out. And if it's not, what can I control? I can control myself. I can say that, okay, this month, wala munang online shopping. Kasi, do I really need another, I don't know, what's typically being bought online? Do I need another, in my case, do I need another pair of yoga pants? Hindi naman. So, that's within my control, and it helps. And lastly, I just wanna, my last point that I wanna make is, with exercise or with a physical goal or fitness, as with financial fitness, it's really all about the long game. So on the next slide, you'll see how you have to think long term, and it has to be think delayed gratification, because it's these small increments that add over time. You can't start on a fitness regimen and you want to lose weight, for example, you want to lose 10 pounds. That's not just maybe point out is physical fitness. You start simple, right? But it can get pretty complex over time as you're doing it. There's help. Like me, I know what to do, but I have a trainer, because I have to be very efficient with my time, and I don't want to have to think about the everyday. This is what I need to do. So my trainer kind of keeps me on track with just the whole program, and I give him feedback. We have a relationship. So it's similar with investing. I mean, later on, you have a much bigger portfolio, for example, or you have much more wealth, or you inherit something. You might know what to do, or you've been quite successful at business, for example, and you're building your wealth. You're thinking about leaving it to your children, for example, but you're still running a business. Life goes on. That's where us as professionals come in, and we do it professionally for you. So it's the more complex it gets, typically you kind of get you want to get the all the help that you can, because it's a complicated. I mean, it's investing is I would say straightforward, but not easy. It's a very complex endeavor, but it's good to be familiar, to know the ins and outs of it, to talk to your manager, talk to your fund manager, study what you're invested in. If it's a fund, I'm going back to my first point. You only invest in the things that you understand, and as you go along and your knowledge kind of get more knowledge about it, then you can do more things. Same with fitness. You can start with walking, stretching, and then later on, you're already doing, I don't know, plyometric exercises, very complex exercises. So yeah, that's just very a little bit more delving into how financial fitness and physical fitness are similar.
Thanks, Sandra. Great points. But now I think there's questions from the audience. So do you mind answering some of them?
Sure.
How do you develop discipline and consistency, as these are key factors both on physical and financial fitness?
Good question. How? Just do it. Honestly, it's discipline. It's something that you develop internally. It's something you can control yourself, right? I go back to my point. And the good news about it is you can keep on trying. If you fail today, try again tomorrow and try again tomorrow. Because what's the long game? The long game is I want to live a long life, a long and healthy life. I want to be there to see my grandkids. I want to be able to move around and walk long distances when I'm retired and I'm traveling and enjoying my retirement. I won't be able to do that if if I focus on I'm just gonna sit in my desk and work the whole day because I have a lot of responsibilities without thinking of balancing it with what I really need to do for the future. So for example, investing, actually I'd rather gusto kong gumimik, gusto kong mag-coffee araw-araw sa Starbucks. 'Di ba? It is enjoyable, and I'm not saying that we deprive ourselves. Of course, we treat ourselves from time to time, but we have to the long game, and that's how you get discipline. It's just a necessary ingredient for success in anything. You stick to what you're doing, right?
Yeah. Okay, another question from the audience. I've started strength training and yoga since being in quarantine in March. I think this lockdown is the healthiest I've been. It's
That's
fun,
great.
but there are days where I don't feel motivated to do it. For fitness and also for investing, how do you go beyond motivation?
Okay, actually, there's this concept in fitness. When you're working out, you're stressing the body out. And that's not where the gains are made. The gains are made when you're resting. So don't feel bad if you have to take a break. Um, because you can actually overdo things, and that's when it's your journey, so you'll figure it out. You push too much, you don't get enough sleep, you watch Netflix the whole night, and you're like, I'm gonna work out the next morning. The older you get, the less feasible that is. But as a principle, and you started simple. You started, sige, I'm just gonna move, I feel good, I'm motivated. Now it becomes a little bit more complex. Parang what and how do I put together a program over the span of weeks, months, diba? So it's getting a little bit more complex, and I would say, how do you become motivated? Personally, when I run into things like that, I'm just naturally, I want to solve things. I want to figure things out. So that's how I'm motivated. If I'm kind of stuck and something's not working, I'm able to kind of overcome it by figuring out a way around it. So for example, I'm not motivated to work out. I will honor what my body is telling me, and I'm not gonna power through it because my body is telling me that I need to rest. And that's okay. And I know this because I researched, I asked questions, and lang.
Yeah, and it happens to the best of us, right?
Everyone. Yeah.
So, in your opinion, should we plan a financial or material inheritance for our children?
That's a very personal. It's a personal thing. Some and depending on context, some people I know grew up with very humble backgrounds, and they saw their parents work really hard, and it was just enough to get a good education, and they kind of didn't missed out on a lot of comforts, maybe, so that conditions them to want to think that I want to leave something for my children. Ayoko mahirapan yung mga anak ko. Okay yun. I mean, it's very honorable. But I've also met people who are kind of considering that without the without being motivated by need, there is not enough appreciation, or you're doing the work for the children, and you're in a sense, it might stunt the children's growth. So it's very personal. Me personally, it's a balance. I like balance. I don't want to be too extreme. I just have a goal, and my goal is I want my children to be able to enjoy, find out what they're passionate about in life, and not be limited by, I can't be an artist because gutom ang artist. Hindi, anak. Kung may talent ka dyan, go, masaya ka, go. Hindi na, I want to be, to put enough away as a goal so that I can help them reach their dreams. Something like that. That's my personal position.
And speaking of personal position, what is the biggest financial decision that you made and how did you handle the hassles?
Again, what's the biggest?
Financial decision that you made and how did you handle the hassles?
Handle the hassles?
Yes.
Okay,
If it
the
came along with
difficulties, no? Yeah. I would say it's buying property, and funding that and deciding whether, because we rent, my family rents for the last 5-6 years, and parang the decision 5 years ago to actually buy property came, I didn't have, it was a leap of faith, pero like it's an asset, so it's also an investment. I mean, that needed to factor into the decision making. So that was a big decision for me. I can say that at the time, with all of the information I had, and in hindsight, so far it was a good decision. But today, with whole crisis and everything, medyo it can throw I'll be honest, it threw me off a little bit. Para okay, I need to get a loan from a bank. How about the rates? Blah blah blah. I mean, it's as information comes in, it can be very settling. But I go back to keeping things simple. Bakit ba ako bumili ng property in the first place? And as long as you take a step back, actually what I like is I like this analogy of I don't know, hindi naman ako marunong magpalipad ng eroplano. Pero if I imagine myself as a pilot, ang daming planes of movement, di ba? And if you're trying to adjust every little, making adjustments, you need to adjust. Pero you have to keep your eye on the horizon. And as long as it's nandyan pa, nakikita mo pa yung horizon, di ka naman magka-crash, you're okay.
Yeah. That's well put. Thank you. And do you advise exploring other economies to diversify investment opportunities? Just like in fitness, do you explore other routines as well?
Yes. So that's a really good question, and I really wanted to talk about that a little bit. I was just concerned we might not have time because I can go all day, Paolo. I can talk about this all day. But this is where it gets more and more and more and more complex. So for me, for example, I used to do a lot of endurance stuff, no? Pero ngayon, as I got older, I want to do more yoga, mobility work. Pero my cardiovascular fitness is still an important component. So I keep so kumbaga, I've diversified my fitness portfolio by focusing a little bit more on flexibility and movement. Because baliwala yung malakas ka kung hindi mo naman magamit. You don't have the range of motion, for example. So with investing, you can, so I do multi-asset management, and that means for our clients, I invest in equities, fixed income, and then we kind of leverage or we make use of diversification or spreading out of risk by adding more asset classes. So we invest in global equities and global fixed income for our clients, and even our our retail clients we come up with products, feeder funds that allow our clients to invest in these markets also. And yes, I would certainly I would recommend it because it's really as more sophisticated in your investment journey. Then these are little adjustments that you can do to enhance your portfolio. Same with fit. For example, you have a view like mahina yung legs ko. Pag nagbabike ako, it's limiting me. What can I do? You can do strength training. You can do more glute strength work. So in investing, it's like medyo hindi ako masyadong I'm not very bullish about the earnings results of Philippine corporates because ang tagal na nating naka-lockdown. Pero in Asia, I mean, my goal is to still make returns or make capital returns because this is for my retirement. So it needs to come from somewhere. It needs to be invested. Pero, so where else? Asia, for example. But this is where you kind of that's my job. I form views, I look at everything that's happening, and I put it all together. But we, ATRAM, we package this and we give it, it's the service that we deliver to our clients. So, for example, you have no clue about what equity investing, what fixed income investing is, long-term horizon, do a balanced fund. Leave the pulling of levers to the professionals, and then you get to learn as you're being more familiar with the product and getting the insights. Then you can form your own views about it, and you can just say now, okay, this is how much I want to put in fixed income, this is how much I want to put in equities, this is how much I want to put in the US. I like technology, I like Europe, for example. So it gets more complex.
Yes, thank you for that. And we're down to our last question. A triathlon involves swimming, biking, and running over a certain distance and time. Can you take us through how important the mental factor is in achieving the ultimate goal, which is to cross the finish line in the shortest time possible? And also, connected with that, what would you advise the youth to be involved financially and plan their future?
That's a lot of questions. The first question is, how do I have the fortitude, mental strength? Sama sa training yun eh. When you're training for an endurance event, you know what the race is. You know you need to run for at least an hour continuously running after you've biked for 90 minutes, after you've swam for 30 minutes. So nakakadalawang oras ka na, kailangan mo pa tumakbo ng isa pang oras. Pinaghandaan yun. So there is a confidence that I prepared for this, I can do this. Going back to the things I can control. I can't control the weather. It can be really, really hot. And this isn't the conditions that I trained under. But you know your body, so you stick to what you know. So mental strength, alam mo, eto bago lang to ha. When I was an athlete, I wish that or a little bit, merong konting component of visualization, ganyan. Ngayon, it's a lot more common, meditation. And my goodness, it's like it's such a powerful thing. And it's not just in sport, in my work, in my job, in when I have to talk to people like this, I meditated and said na, this is the outcome that I want. I want to be able to reach as many people and talk about my passion. And it can't be ignored. So it's really a great question. It's something you can control, and something you can work on. And it's actually a whole other dimension to fitness, diba?
Right.
Mental health.
Right. And lastly, you've been there. And what advice can you give the youth involving in financial plan and planning for their future?
Start early. I mean, honestly, my work colleagues, I keep on telling my team, for example, they're like 10 years younger than me. And I tell them, my goodness, at your 20s, you should be at your fittest. Nakakahiya kayo na, hindi naman. Pero you tend to discount that when you're young, and you think that you're gonna be that, you can abuse your body forever, or you can get away with spending all of your income without putting something away, or you can think to yourself, I'll do that when I'm earning a little bit more in my 30s. Honestly, you should have started yesterday, and that's the best piece of advice. And I'm so fortunate that my parents were the ones who pushed me into sport. I was young, I hated it, but now I'm really benefiting from it.
Okay, thank you for that, Sandra. I think we can leave it here for this webinar. Thank you again to our audience. If you have any further questions or would like to learn more about ATRAM's funds and strategies, please get in touch with your relevant ATRAM relationship manager or visit our website, www.atram.com.ph. Thank you. Lastly, please answer the survey at the end of the session as your feedback is valuable to us. We appreciate you taking the time to join us, and on behalf of ATRAM, I'd like to wish for the safety of you and your family. Stay healthy. Best of luck. Thank you very much and have a great day.